Tonight, a golden glow and record-breaking day for Canada at the Paris Summer Olympics.
I think I just had the best race of my life. I'm just really excited about that and proud of myself.
On the water, the dance floor, and the track.
I couldn't have performed better, couldn't have had a better race than I did today.
Canada cements its most successful medal haul ever. Paris promised going green at the Games. Did they deliver? First-hand stories of flooding and mayhem from a Montreal storm.
The basement was flooded. It's like a pool.
Plus the adventures of bird watching in New Brunswick.
I can't remember not being fascinated by birds.
A bird's eye view of a popular pastime.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, John Ehrlichman.
Good evening. Canada's Olympians had a chance to make history today, and they delivered. On the second last day of competition in Paris, a new record was set for the number of medals tallied in a non-boycotted Summer Games. Canada began Saturday with 24, tying our previous record, but 3 new medals added today, 2 gold and 1 silver, breaks 2 records, the most gold and the most medals tallied by our country, not including the Los Angeles Games in 1984, where several countries chose not to participate in protest. CTV's Kamal Karamali joins us now, and Kamal, Canada broke that threshold pretty early today.
John, while most Canadians were fast asleep, one athlete made history for Canada in the water. It was a photo finish for Mississauga, Ontario's Katie Vincent, eventually declared the winner of the women's 200-meter canoe sprint. Vincent recorded a world best time of just over 44 seconds, beating out second place by just 0.01 seconds.
How I raced today is what I'm most proud of. I think I just had the best race of my life and on the day that it mattered the most. So I think I'm just really excited about that and proud of myself.
0.01 seconds. It doesn't get closer than that. It's impossible to get closer than that. But it was crazy for her. It was a world best time.
Canada also put on a show on the dance floor. Vancouver's Philip Kim becomes the first ever men's gold medalist in breaking, which made its debut in Paris. Kim, aka Phil Wizard, outdanced France's Danny Dan 23-4.
It still feels like a dream, to be honest. I feel like I'm going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be gone, but hopefully it's still there. But it's an incredible honor and a privilege.
And more hardware for Canada. Edmonton's Marco Arope notched a silver medal with a surge in the final stretch of the men's 800 meters, finishing with a time of just over 1 minute and 41 seconds, but falling just shy of the gold by 1/100th of a second.
It's what we dream of, you know, that top 3, regardless of the medal. It's just an honor seeing the Canadian flag raise.
Heartbreak on the mat for Burnaby, BC's Ana Godinez Gonzalez, coming up short in her bronze medal match in the women's 62-kilogram freestyle division. Canada ends the day and quite possibly these Summer Games now with a total of 27 medals, including 9 gold, with only a handful of events and the closing ceremony set for tomorrow. John.
A big day. Thanks, Kamal. Paris had pledged to deliver the greenest games ever, but it faced plenty of obstacles along the way. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin has the final score on sustainability.
The City of Lights made grandiose promises for these games, and it did deliver on its bid to turn historic monuments into majestic Olympic venues. Again today, that backdrop was on full display for the men's marathon. And 20,000 regular runners from 127 countries, including these Canadians, won a chance to race that same route after the athletes.
Bought my Canada shirt and got the nails done.
This for a unique Olympic first, a marathon pour tous, a marathon for all.
The route, marching to Versailles and back again, I mean, it's very, very monumental, and to be following in the paths of the Olympians.
Retooling old landmarks cut costs, say organizers, and was part of a bid for more sustainable games. A pool built for the swimming events will be dismantled, but the city won't be left struggling to pay and maintain several massive new stadiums. But not all of Paris's promises came to pass.
Ça reste une très très belle fête.
It's a beautiful party that happens once in a century, says this Parisian, but it wasn't all good. The closing ceremony will unfold in the Stade de France, in a neighborhood Paris said it would revitalize. In that banlieue or suburb of Seine-Saint-Denis, a third of residents live in poverty. Some now say they were sidelined, forgotten, and forced to endure years of disruptions, including construction around the clock. Then came all the police patrols that you see everywhere, he says. There are not a lot of people who are sympathetic to our situation. And there was the Seine and its lingering pollution, center stage for drama through much of the games. Rumors swirled after a triathlete got sick. Tests showed she was infected with a virus, though not E. coli. And organizers say the massive efforts to decontaminate the river were not just for the games, but an investment in a future in the face of climate change.
La Seine.
The population will be able to swim in the heart of the city, said Mayor Anne Hidalgo. As scientists warned, temperatures could soar to 50 degrees Celsius here by 2050. The mayor says Paris spent a decade preparing for these games, but that the legacy will last far longer. John.
Okay, Genevieve, thank you. To Montreal now, where residents are cleaning up after the city was hammered by record-breaking rain. The downpour coming in the wake of Tropical Storm Debbie, not just flooding basements, but leaving dozens of roads washed out or damaged. There were forced evacuations in some communities. And at the peak on Friday night, more than 500,000 Hydro-Quebec customers had no power. CTV's Maria Saru has more from some of the families now dealing with the damage.
Mitch Spohr spent the morning in cleanup mode. His family is dealing with the aftermath of Friday's record rains.
What can we save? What can we keep? What do we need to throw away? So we've got a big pile in our driveway full of stuff that we're going to throw out.
Spohr got home from dinner to find close to 15 centimeters of sewage in his basement.
The running theory is we have a backflow valve we installed here, but everything had popped up. So the water was coming in here, here, here.
His friends dropped off fans
I've got two already.
to help dry out his damaged furniture. One example of how communities have come together to support their neighbors. In another pocket of the suburb, Pat Franceschini says his home flooded for the first time in 2 decades.
I thought it was water until I put my hands in there and kneeled down and everything, got the buckets. It was sewage.
The remnants of Tropical Storm Debbie dumped up to 173 millimeters of rain on Montreal yesterday. Environment Canada says it was one of the wettest moments in Canadian history. The deluge inundated highways and households. A community center in Dollard-des-Ormeaux saw dramatic flooding. In Beaconsfield, several people told CTV News entire streets were affected. But back in Kirkland today, Peter Martinez helped his parents move damaged furniture and food out of their basement.
The basement was flooded. It's like a pool. For sure the wooden floorings are finished. It has to be replaced. The walls, the insulation, maybe upwards of $20,000 to maybe $50,000+.
Like many others, their insurance company has not returned their calls. A spokesperson for the city of Kirkland said officials will meet Monday to arrange bulk trash pickup as soon as possible. Maria Saru, CTV News.
In central Gaza, nearly 100 people are dead and dozens wounded after an Israeli airstrike on a school being used as a shelter. Today's strike is one of the deadliest since the war between Israel and Hamas began. It struck early Saturday during prayers at a mosque in the school. Israel said Hamas was using the school compound for military operations and cast doubt on the death toll. Hamas denies using the school as a command center. Authorities in Brazil are investigating what caused that deadly plane crash in Sao Paulo. 62 people were killed yesterday. Brazil's Air Force says the plane was flying normally until 1:21 p.m. Video from witnesses shows the horrifying moment the plane appears to go into a flat spin before plunging thousands of feet, crashing in a gated community. Authorities are analyzing the plane's black box. Relatives of the victims were brought to Sao Paulo today to provide DNA to help identify the remains. A deadly 9-vehicle pileup saw 2 cars catch fire, shutting down an intersection in Oshawa, Ontario. The chain reaction crash killed at least one person and sent another 8 people to hospital.
Our collision investigation unit's currently on scene, attempting to determine the sequence of events that led up to this collision.
This witness photo shows a thick plume of smoke coming from the crash site. Innocent bystanders and a chip truck nearby were hit by debris. A man who lives close by was actually getting ready for his shift at the chip truck and described the impact.
It felt like thunder or lightning had struck my house. Like you could feel the rumble. I came downstairs expecting to hear that an 18-wheeler had flipped over and went through the 401 wall or something. That's how tremendous the sound and impact was.
Witnesses say that specific intersection is notorious in the neighborhood for speeding and car crashes. The collapsed crane from a massive fire in Vancouver could take 2 weeks to remove. Today, the construction site that caught fire was partly demolished. Earlier this week, the towering crane came crashing down, gutting an under-construction apartment building and 2 nearby homes. Firefighters fighting the flames describe embers floating the size of soccer balls. Most residents have returned home. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Donald Trump's campaign team sees it has been hacked and it's blaming Iran. The confirmation comes after a report that internal documents were leaked, including a dossier on Trump's VP pick, J.D. Vance. A Trump spokesperson casting the hack as an effort to interfere with November's presidential election. Tech tensions are also in focus on the Canadian political scene. The NDP calling for an investigation into whether the Conservatives are using bot farms to build online buzz. Here's CTV's Mike Licouture.
It was a rousing rally in Kirkland Lake, Ontario, but the online reviews have been raising eyebrows across the country. Posts on social media started popping up last weekend using identical language. The accounts span the globe, claiming to have just returned from the rally, still buzzing with energy. The NDP isn't buying the hype, accusing the Conservatives of using bots, and the party is asking the Commissioner of Canada Elections to investigate.
You can't have your electoral system being hijacked by dark actors. We need to know who those actors are.
A number of Liberal MPs wrote an open letter to Elon Musk calling on him to follow through on a promise to clamp down on bot activity. A spokesperson for the Conservatives denies the party is using bots. Pierre Poilievre calls the story a Liberal distraction.
False allegations to distract from the hunger, the homelessness.
In a statement to CTV News, Elections Canada says it has no specific provisions on bots or bot farms, but did point to proposed changes to the Elections Act, which would require all electoral communications, not just advertising, to disclose who is communicating.
This doesn't overall look real at all.
Andrew Loshman should know, having spent 12 years at Canada's cyber spy agency. He says botnets or bot farms are basically network computers automated to boost social media metrics or send out similar posts.
Your perception of what might be true and false is also increasingly blurry and difficult to decide. I believe it's a real problem.
Loshman says a group or political party could ask a company to do marketing, and that company might use botnets. Either way, he believes governments should crack down on their use.
Introduction of legislation, regulation that is supportive of organizations to enable them to implement best practices, make technological investments.
The Commissioner of Canada Elections confirms it has received the NDP's complaint about the Conservative rally, adding, all allegations are taken seriously and evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Mike Licouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up.
It's more than just a broken bone. We're seeing that multiple body systems are being injured.
Doctors sounded the alarm over electric scooters. Plus, an avid birder meets a major milestone. Electric scooters are popular this summer, but there are safety concerns, especially with kids who may be too young to ride. CTV's Christina Tenali reports.
They're fun and fast. Some travel anywhere from 30 to more than 60 kilometers per hour. And some of these devices are marketed to kids, too. But this is not a toy.
These can travel at a significant rate of speed.
E-scooters, minimum age requirements and usage laws vary. But there is some guidance that is consistent from doctors across the country who are warning parents about the dangers of these electric vehicles.
Children under the age of 16 should not actually be using these.
The Hospital for Sick Children reports in June and July alone, doctors treated 16 injuries related to e-scooter use, compared to just 5 injuries over the same period last year.
We're seeing that multiple body systems are being injured.
And in more than half of the cases, kids weren't wearing a helmet. For e-scooters, there are some provincial pilot projects underway with posted guidelines. In BC and Ontario, municipalities opt in. In Ontario, you can't travel more than 24 kilometers an hour, must be at least 16 years old, and you must wear a helmet if you're under 18. In Quebec, Montreal's Children's Hospital warning that in the past 5 years, about half of all injuries for e-scooters were in kids under the age of 14. You must be at least 14 in Quebec to ride one of these.
What has happened is the provincial government, municipal governments, and heck, even the federal government have really dropped the ball on regulation here.
Parents may just not be informed and are purchasing them for their kids.
This Toronto dad has witnessed that firsthand, seeing little ones on e-scooters and bikes.
I think we need like a regulation to have a minimum age.
Since laws around these motorized vehicles vary based on the type of device and the municipality you live in, the experts we spoke with recommend you read and understand your local regulations before you allow your child to use one. Christina Tenalia, CTV News, Toronto.
Still ahead, a crowning achievement.
Your new Miss Universe Canada 2024 is
a first for representation at one of the country's biggest pageants. There's a new Miss Universe Canada, and she's celebrating the big win for both herself and for Indigenous communities. Ashley Collingbull is getting used to breaking barriers. CTV's Rachel Crowe Spreading Wings has more.
Your new Miss Universe Canada 2024 is Ashley Collingbull.
This was the moment Ashley Collingbull became the country's first Indigenous Miss Universe Canada winner.
It's bigger than me because it represents all Indigenous people. You know, when one of us wins, we all win. That representation is so needed, and finally we are being seen and heard in such a mainstream space.
She's from Enoch Cree Nation in Alberta and says breaking barriers is truly about inspiring the youth around the world.
It doesn't matter where they come from, what they've been through, the dream is attainable as long as you put in the work and the effort and believe in yourself.
She's no stranger to the pageant world. Her passion to excel started from a young age, winning her first crown right here at home.
It was my first pageant I ever did, and that was on my reserve. That was the only pageant that I known was, you know, winning Tiny Tot Junior and Senior Princess, and then telling myself one day, like, I'm going to be a queen. I want to be a queen.
In 2015, Collingbull won Mrs. Universe and became the first Indigenous model to be featured on the pages of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition in 2022. She says chasing her dreams has been a long journey, but her mother has been with her all the way.
All the poverty, abuse, everything that we went through, and finally get to this point in our lives where it's like after I was crowned and she came on stage, I was like, Mom, we did it. Because I felt like we did it together.
Collingbull will be visiting different reserves and communities around the U.S. and Canada as she prepares for the Miss Universe pageant being held this November in Mexico.
I feel like there's an army of strong Indigenous women coming through, and it makes me so proud that, you know, I'm one of the ones that are leading the way, but knowing that I won't be the last is like the most impactful feeling I have in my heart.
Rachel Crowe Spreading Wings, CTV News, Edmonton.
There was an unlikely spotting of a rare and elusive shark off the coast of BC. A trio of divers came across it while exploring the waters near Lions Bay last night. It's a juvenile female blunt-nosed six-gill, also known as a cow shark. The group spotted it at a depth of roughly 15 meters, closer to the surface than they typically swim.
I was on pins and needles for hours after that. I was like, it was the most amazing experience being that close to a shark that big and just seeing that it was just a gentle giant, like a big sea puppy.
Divers estimate this puppy was nearly 3 meters long. After the break, a birder with an impressive record. Try to guess how many species this bird lover has spotted. We leave you tonight with a story of dedication. It's about a man who developed a pretty good eye for spotting birds. He recently celebrated a big milestone. Here's CTV's Sarah Plowman with more on the birder from New Brunswick.
In the thick of nature or wide open marshes, you'll find Jim Wilson on the lookout. Armed with curiosity, sharp eyes and ears, he lugs his scope and binoculars into the natural world so he can pause and enjoy its wonder.
I can't remember not being fascinated by birds because my dad was interested. I've seen several mallards.
Since Wilson was a boy, he had a list of the birds he's seen. He now holds the record for New Brunswick. There are 442 birds in that province.
I've seen 400. And I was lucky enough to hit that milestone just recently.
The latest find, a Wilson's plover. No relation to this birder. He woke up early and raced to see it, a day after he learned the shorebird that's usually farther south was here.
Extremely rare in Canada and this far north. We'd never had a documented Wilson's plover before.
Whenever a new bird is spotted in the province, the person who saw it has to provide proof. Maybe an audio recording, a video, a photo, a written report. All of it goes to a committee that decides with a vote.
It's a very serious thing to try and make sure that we get all the evidence, and then all that evidence is archived.
It's up to each birder to track their own list and be honest.
My nemesis bird, and everybody has one, is a very skulky bird called the Connecticut warbler. My wife, I was standing within 10 feet of her when she was watching one at one time, but it disappeared. We never saw it again. And I have not been able to catch up with one.
Wilson says a lot of birders in New Brunswick have spotted 350 or even 390 some species. What's your goal?
Well, 500 would be nice.
So he stands by on watch, ready for any surprise or new arrivals. All of them he'll want to meet. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Hampton, New Brunswick.
That's it for us tonight. I'm John Ehrlichman. Morella Fernandez is here tomorrow. For Heather and all of us at CTV National News, thanks for watching. Good night.